I'm Wietze,
And I'm Sam Ivy.
and
And
welcome
welcome.
to episode,
42, 43.
I
The
think it
bonus
might be
episode threw
40.
me off, so I'm not.
Yeah. I think it's 43, though.
I think it is too.
Sam got a mic. Yeah!
Yay!
I lost my mic. Yeah!
Yay!
So that's good. But I'm currently using my Bluebird microphone. So let us know if you notice a difference in the audio from last week, because last week neither one of us had microphones. And now this week, each of us has a different microphone, but it'd be nice to know if you notice a difference. And stay tuned for some Patreon announcements in the pretty near future. So, that's some ways that you could support us to grow and get better and give you more content are coming. And it feels like we've been recording a lot lately because of that bonus episode, and we're also recording a lot earlier this week than we usually do because you did a bunch of research on your topic and you're ready to go. So I'm excited. But I wanted to, before we started, as soon as I was done editing the episode and I was gathering my sources, there was one source that I couldn't remember the website, so I had to go back and track it down. And it was very difficult to find it because the news and everything was, like, every populated news article, even scrolling through multiple sources, was about what happened at Kodak headquarters while we were recording that episode. So what happened? This is from News 10 in Rochester, and this hydrogen gas explosion risk contained after sulfuric acid leak at Kodak Friday morning. So a sulfuric acid spill at the Kodak facility ignited a hazmat response from the Rochester Fire Department Friday morning. So this was actually before we recorded. But still, fire crew tells us they got a call for a fire alarm around 2 a.m. Once they got to the scene, they found 3 lead-acid batteries smoking and leaking sulfuric acid after the building's emergency backup power system malfunctioned. Crews explained that chemical reactions created hydrogen gas, a major explosion hazard. Fire crews started their hazmat response by using water-powered fans to get that hydrogen gas to a nearby balcony. Mind you, this is Kodak headquarters in the middle of the city on Lake Street. It's in High Falls, so, maybe
Is that the
not
same one that we drove by when we were, just exploring New York that one time? Like, when we, went on, the Genesee River and everything to that one brew place that's right there?
Yep, and the building that says Kodak?
Yeah.
It's in that area, yes. Yep. Hydrogen gas is a major explosion hazard, so they needed to get on that real quick. So, fire crews started their hazmat response by using those water-powered fans to get the gas to a nearby balcony, and then other crews arrived on the scene to clean up this sulfuric acid spill. So there were physical attempts to remove the hydrogen gas from a concentrated area, but then you also had other crews cleaning up the chemical spills because there was a lot of messes happening. None of the firefighters or Kodak employees were hurt. Now, Rochester Fire Department says Kodak has an on-site fire brigade, which is another thing I forgot to mention about Kodak. I completely forgot to mention the Kodak surrounding the culture surrounding Kodak last week. So before we jump into yours, I think it's really important for people to understand Kodak. Not only did they have their own fire department, they had their own like bowling team. They had their own gas stations. They were basically a self-sufficient compound, if you will, minus people living there. But it's like, when you were a part of the Kodak company, that was like your family. Like they really sold this, like, come to the company bowling league, like join the company bowling league, join the company racing league, bring your family to these events. Like, it was very
cool. That's really cool. That's very community based, especially for, like, if you didn't know what was going on underneath. Like, that's really fucking cool.
But that is why Kodak is loved so much, because if you worked for Kodak, you felt like you were doing it with purpose. And I remember, like my parents and, like, older people in my family speaking really highly about Kodak. They didn't work there or anything, but to know that, like, that was the brand they trusted, that was the film that they used, those were the cameras they were buying. I found so many Kodak rolls of film in my grandparents' house, Kodak brownies. That didn't happen without effort. It wasn't just, oh, let's make the chemistry, let's do all this crazy stuff, but in order to continue doing that, you have to have loyal employees. And to create loyalty, you have to create comfort. So I think, you know, somewhere along the lines, the care for people replaced the need to make money. And that is how all these accidents happened. That's not saying that that's what happened a few days ago or anything like that, but that is another reason why they had so much power, because they were so loved by everybody in Rochester that once it was like, people were like, oh, they're the reason that children are dying. They're the reason that, you know, we can't live here. It's because they don't care about us. But how is that true? My whole life is documented on their products. So I just want to throw that out there. So back to what Rochester Fire Department was saying, Kodak has their own on-site fire brigade trained to maintain the backup power equipment, so that when the teams come in to, like, clean up, it's like they're taking over. So there was already on-site Kodak employees to deal with that. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about is you can go and track what they are doing and the process that's being made by going to, I believe this is the website. Yes. You go, and I'll put this in the show notes this week, but I'll reference that it's for last week. So this is from the EPA, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, and it just documents all hazardous waste cleanup around the United States. So you can go on there and you can actually search for different hazardous waste sites and see what they're actively doing. So hazardous waste cleanup in Eastman Business Park in Rochester, New York. They are stating that the human exposure is under control and that the groundwater contamination is under control. But this website goes into very specific details about everything that they're doing and what was put into the river.
Hell yeah, dude.
Now I'm done.
So, I guess it's cereal time with Sam. Ba-da-ba. So, this week, I am going to explain how it ties into my family first before I get into the juicy, gory, story set in 1948 that I have for you guys. But, this all started, and the reason why I came across this story is because my great-grandmother just passed away about a week ago, going on 2 weeks, and her funeral and viewing are actually this week. And while we were there at her house, being the family that we are, we were going through, like, old yearbooks and different things that were on her bookshelf, just trying to, get an idea of who this woman was as she was passing. And one of those books that was discovered was this, like, crime book that we'll post a picture of, I'm sure, when we make this post. But it's a great book that's all about the true crime in the state of Maryland and various parts of Maryland. And, when me and Wietze were talking about, like, what to do for this episode, we were feeling a little true crimey. I thought, why not open the book up? So I took a look at that index and I just picked a chapter that had an interesting name. And I read and read and read. And it's really funny because, I read the book and I was like, cool, well, let me go online and see if I can find any other sources or find any other information, trying to answer those questions I'm sure we all know Wietze's going to have for me once I get into it. So, that being said, when I tried to look it up online, like, everything was very hard to find. Like, all I could find was, like, a newspaper article that really said very bare minimum. There was something that showed me, like, where to find one of the graves that are one of the victims in the story. But, like, when it came to, like, the actual details of the crime and the event, like, it seemed like this book was the only thing that had that information. So that was kind of cool.
And that is so awesome that this came from your great-grandma and was discovered during a time of, like, grief, but also rediscovering her before she was gone forever. And it really, the fact that she had that book, I mean, makes so much sense to your family, and you guys are, I think you come from a long, like, line of people that are not close-minded. Open-minded, yes. But also, like, you can handle darkness because it's hard to explain. Like, people are drawn to dark things who have experienced difficult things, and so it builds a resilience in people, and some people don't understand that. Some people just think that if you're interested in true crime, you're a creep, you're a freak, you're weird. But it's also a way to, like, honor people, the victims of those cases. I just think it's really cool that this is from your great-grandma, and that's one of the best ways to connect it to our podcast.
But no, that is very well said, and that's why, like, I think I got as into the story as I did. So I went ahead and jotted it down. Basically, the title that was in the book, it was called Lover's Lane, and that immediately attracted me due to the fact that, like, I mean, I love documentaries, I love creepy shit, we all know this by now, but there's a documentary called Urban Legends, and it's, this guy and, like, his partner, and they go to all the states about where certain legends started. So whether it was, the check your candy before you eat it during Halloween, and, like, where that started, or, the legends, just, the legends of Goatman, and, like, all these different ones. And they even did, the legends of Lover's Lane, where you have, like, the hook hand man, everybody knows the story. Two people that are, wanting to go make out, cuddle, whatever they're doing, drive off into, like, an abandoned road, or, somewhere where there's no people or no pass-through. And then they are brutally slain, and, by somebody that, according to that legend, is a hook with a hand and all that jazz. But
that is, like, one of the first, sorry to cut you off, one of the first scary stories I ever heard was the Lover's Lane with a hook hand. Like, one of the first ones, I went to my parents' friend's house who had kids that were all, like, a little bit older, and I don't even remember any of their names, but I know that their dad's name was Jeff, and every time we were getting ready to go over there, I would dread it, because I knew that there was going to be a scary story to freak me out, especially, like, they're older kids trying to scare the littler kids.
Oh, 100%. As we all
harmless. Do. Yeah, harmless, like, but I remember them telling me that story, and the story of how, like, there's vampires, and if you don't have garlic up, like, they eat you, and so I was scared of vampires for so long. Vampires and freaking people with hooked hands, because it had something to do with me, like, getting a boyfriend or something. So this hits close to home.
Fair.
Shout out to Jeff's kids if you're listening and know who you are by that vague message.
Well, I will tell you, this assailant is no hook hand man. This is a modern day demon. And I'm going to say that I'm calling this one, the Glen Burnie Lover's Lane, because that's where it happened. It happened in Glen Burnie, Maryland, which is like a hop, skip, and a jump from where I currently live. So it's right in my backyard. I've definitely passed through. I've definitely hung out in that area before. But this is back in 1948. So Keep that in mind. The victims are Mary Kline. She was 18 years old and a typist at the time. And then the male victim is John H. Mahlan. He was age 25. He was a war veteran and a postal employee.
Damn.
Yep.
Rest in peace to both of them.
And this is where their story kind of goes. They went on a date on a Friday evening in September, and they never returned. On September 17th, their blood-stained, bullet-marked car containing no bodies was found at the end of a side road hidden out of view from the public. Investigators said it appeared that bullets had been fired through the passenger seat window, shards of shattered glass on the right front seat, a bullet flattened after apparently striking the steering wheel, and a female shoe, most likely Kline's, resting on the floor of the back seat beside a pool of blood. Mahlan's... Oh, no, go ahead.
As soon as
that imagery...
Yeah, that imagery, and then as soon as you started, it thundered, and now it's downpouring. And it was like not... There was no indication it was going to do that. It just... That was really spooky.
It says here that Mahlan's driver's license was found in the woods little less than a mile from the car, but no trace of the bodies or a hint of where they could be. Within the week of the missing, a county employee operating a road grader 6 miles west of Annapolis, about 26 miles south from where the car was discovered, he came upon the lifeless bodies of the missing couple. Both victims had been shot in the head, but no weapon was found. Apparently, according to the evidence, the murderer dumped the bodies and then drove Mahlan's car back to Glen Burnie where it was initially discovered, with all the bullet holes and the blood and, the evidence.
Wait, so the killer drove them somewhere and then drove their car back to leave it where they left it?
Yep, so wherever the car was found, which is, I guess, where Mary and John were supposed to meet initially, that was their Lover's Lane section.
Yeah.
That's where the car was discovered, and that's where that's where everybody knew that they were going to be. But their bodies, their bodies were dropped off and disposed of at a different dump site.
Oh, okay.
About 26 miles away. But he then drove the car back to where he initially murdered them, or Lover's Lane situation happened.
Ah, so he probably had to get back to his vehicle or something.
But that's, so that's weird. There's a lot of different twists and turns in this case that kind of got a little weird. So that's what the evidence suggested, but there's no confirmation of that yet. Then they went ahead and did an autopsy, and they indicated that Mary Kline might have been held and terrorized for up to 6 hours after Mahlan had been killed. So according to their time of death, Mahlan was shot first and died, and then Mary was tortured for more than likely another 6+ hours, according to the autopsy. Because their bodies were, bludgeoned, they had gunshot wounds, they were bruised, they could definitely tell they put up a fight, they did not just go willingly.
I can't even imagine. And he's 25 and she's younger than him, right?
She's 18.
Oh my god. To be 18 years old and this person that you are interested in, dating, who's they've been going on dates. It didn't specify in the book how long they've been together. It just said that they were a known item or a known not official couple, but they were definitely courting and doing the things that you do in the 50s. That 6 hours of her life. I cannot. I hope that she was reborn into a giant redwood.
I hope so too. But it's okay. The story has its ups and downs, I'll put it that way. It could have been a lot worse. It's very tragic regardless. But compared to other stories we've covered, this one is definitely, it has its own heaviness to it. That's a different level, I would put it. So a week after the murder, they reported discovering 6 empty cartridges within 2 miles of the bullet-ridden car. So a week after, the car was discovered, the week, after the bodies were found, all that jazz, they all of a sudden happened to find bullet cartridges. And then also, it said with the autopsy, because it took a little bit for some results to come in, and this is trigger, but also kind of a good news, is that Kline was not sexually assaulted at all during that 6-hour period.
And that is good news, and thank fuck for that. But then that leads to the next question. What was your motive? To leave her alive and get rid of her boyfriend if your intentions were not to do that? Again, good, but what? That just makes it even more confusing.
Now, what's really still fucked up that happened to her is after she died and while she was in the morgue, 7 young men were arrested for breaking into the Baltimore City morgue, and they took pictures of her dead body. And
fucked up.
Yes, and those men were charged with having taken obscene images of the girl's body, but upon investigation, they had no link to the murder at all. They just were dumb kids doing something very grotesque that should not have been done. And it just happened to be Mary
violating.
Kline. And this was also a very popular, like, news broadcasted, tragedy. So I'm sure, like, there was, like, a dare, young boys being young boys, but, like, everybody knew about this situation because it was notorious for a while. Everybody was scared. They had no idea who had done it. They're like, oh, shit, Lover's Lane murder, like, 50s, like, that doesn't happen here.
Is this the original, like, is this the origin story of the Lover's Lane?
Not from, so according to the documentary Urban Legends, no, because this is the Maryland, like, Lover's Lane story, I would say.
Got it. Because it seems pretty spot on, other than the hook for a hand, but,
Exactly. But yeah, so that happened with her body in the morgue. So all this happened in September. By November 1st, Maryland police had followed leads and questioned suspects as far away as Boston and New Jersey, but didn't have a primary suspect until all of a sudden, like, some lead came in, and the suspect was ironically 3 miles southeast of Glen Burnie in Freetown, of all places.
Damn.
Yeah. That gentleman's name was Thomas Alexander Edwards. He was 23. He was a 3-year Army vet who worked in the Baltimore sugar refinery. I mean, that's all I kind of said about, like, his business and stuff, because, like, even when I tried to look him up online, like I said, nothing was found. Like, this shit, I don't know if it's just so old and documents were lost or what it was, but all this information I'm giving you is what I sent that article that I found, on Maryland.gov, and then the book. Like, those are my references for all of this.
Yeah, well, that's good because it's something that is... You're not going to find it everywhere, and at the same time, you're bringing light to a story that maybe... Like Mary Kline, that is just saying her name. And what was his name again? John?
John Mahlan. It's Mahlan.
Mahlan.
Yeah, Mahlan.
Mahlan?
Yeah.
Mahlan? Yeah, okay.
So, yeah, Thomas was initially charged after he, quote-unquote, fell into a trap baited by a stool pigeon. And I'll get into what that means in a second. So, they got the tip-off on this guy. They interviewed, and he was questioned 3 weeks earlier to him actually getting charged with anything. And during the questioning, police learned he owned a strange foreign-made handgun. Which, they were like, well, the bullets that we have for this are, like, foreign. They're not common. And so, like, what standard, for that age? So they're like, okay, interesting. There's something about this guy. We're going to go ahead and tail him. We're just going to watch him. If there's nothing there, there's nothing there. Yeah. We just wasted some man hours. But we got a gut feeling.
Yeah.
So after 5 days of, like, questioning and them doing all this, Edwards was released claiming he bought the gun from a former soldier in the Army and sold it to someone he can't remember their name. So he no longer has this foreign handgun that he talked about owning.
Yeah, that's pretty convenient that you would do that and not figure out who you're selling it to, first of all. That's irresponsible.
So like I said, the police kept him under surveillance. And when he was taken in for more questioning, they went ahead and set it up where they put a former prison inmate who, in an adjoining cell, who was working as a police informant and, got Edwards talking, got him to, say some stuff. And in the recorded conversations, Edwards' comments gave the police enough information to, be able to search his home and look for this gun that he supposedly got rid of. So, at his house, the police found the .380 caliber Czechoslovakian pistol.
Yeah, because a lot of people have Czechoslovakian pistols in Maryland in the 1940s, so...
Yeah, so they found that pistol, and it was hidden behind a pile of fruit in his house, of all places. And once...
I just don't even know.
And once they examined it, it was confirmed that the bullets found in the heads of the victim and the ones that they found 6 days at the scene later matched that pistol.
And he had hidden it. So he had claimed that he had sold it, but he didn't really sell it. He hid it behind his fruit basket.
Yep.
There's so many other places that you could hide it, but you hide it behind a fruit basket.
Yeah,
like, and this guy's 23?
Yeah, 23. Ex-military, 23, like...
Whole life ahead of you, what are you doing? Like, why are you taking people's lives? Why are you...
Oh, we'll get into that. That explains the motive.
Jesus.
So, in reporter Richard Morris's story in the Post, Edward confessed he shot Mahlan through the car window. When Kline screamed and ran out from the car, Edwards chased her and forced her into the back seat, where he then struck her in the head with the butt of his pistol. Which is why there was blood in the back seat and all that jazz. Other than, the shooting of the man. Edwards said he kicked the bodies out of the car, but heard Kline moan. Edwards then shot her in the head. Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not, like, blaming her, but, man, if she had just... He says that, but you never know. Like, if that's really what happened.
It could have just been his, like, scare factor. But according to him, she moaned, so then he shot her in the head. And then he drove their car back to Glen Burnie, ending his evening at home in Freetown, which, like I said, was about 3 miles away from where they were at in Glen Burnie. According to police officers, he was very condescending and very rude and very, like, know-it-all type of attitude. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did, like, word it that way or, have some type of, like, sting in his voice or flair.
Yeah, I mean, to think that you are important or powerful or worthy enough to take another life, especially too, you're a piece of shit.
So, after, that confession according to that reporters, he eventually took authorities on a guided tour, reenacting his route and the night of the murders and what exactly happens. So then Edwards claimed, and this is like his motive behind everything, so this is like why he did it in the first place. He claimed he became angry when the car driven by Mahlan almost ran him down as it passed him on the road. He said he caught up with Mahlan and got into an argument, during which Edwards shot him.
So you're telling me road rage?
Yep.
That is insane. And it just thundered again.
I heard it that time.
I can't get over... I just can't get over...
The fact that it's road rage. The fact that it was all because of road rage. They didn't know him, Adam from Eve. All they did was pass him.
And
he
the
was pissed
horror.
Off.
The fucking horror that he inflicted on Mary for 6... You said 6 hours, right?
Yeah, that's what the autopsy said. That it showed that she was alive for up to 6 hours after after Mahlan had passed. And, her body was bruised up from, like, fighting and running and things like that. So, and he hit her in the head with the butt of her pistol. So, like...
Oh, my God. That's just horrific. And she witnessed her boyfriend, so to speak, get murdered. Like, all because he was... Yeah.
Oh, just wait. There's more.
Okay.
Name that movie.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God.
You just watched it.
Scream.
But wait, there you go. Wait, there's more. Alright, so, in mid-December, despite the detailed confessions, Edwards pleaded not guilty. A 3-judge, non-jury trial was scheduled for February. The trial was held in Baltimore and lasted only 3 days. The judges only had to deliberate for an hour and found Edwards guilty of first-degree murder. Edwards,
Hell yeah. Only took an hour because he obviously
and it was 3 judges, so they didn't let him have a jury. It was 3 people's decision.
Good.
So Edwards tried to appeal, but once he was denied, he was sentenced to hang.
Oh shit! I did not see that coming.
Yeah, think about it. It's 40s, like the 1949 like range at this point.
Oh my God! When was... I need to look up while you're talking. I'll look it up. When being hung in the United States was outlawed.
So, he was sentenced. Everything was finished. The books were closed on the Lover's Lane case. So they thought. But 6 months later, in December 1949, an anonymous letter was discovered in the mailbox of Edward's attorney, claiming Edward's innocence. And I got that letter for you.
What the fuck? What kind of spy movie shit goddamn is this?
So,
what?
The letter said, "Gentlemen, I am writing to you to let you both know that the Negro Edwards did not kill," and I'm going to restart this, but disclaimer, it does drop, the word Negro, and I am saying it because it's what's in the letter, not because of anything derogatory, but I am reading it verbatim. This is what it said. So I'm going to restart that. But
okay.
The letter said, "Gentlemen, I am writing to you to let you both know that the Negro Edwards did not kill Mary Kline and Johnny Mahlan. The night that they were killed, my buddy, Sick, had a date with Mary Kline, and I had one with another girl. Both of them we met at the ice cream parlor in Glen Burnie. We were to meet them where Johnny and Mary were killed. They were to be in a car driven by Mary's friend. When we got there, Mary was with Johnny. A fight started. John slugged Sick, my pal, in the jaw. A pistol, a German Luger, Luger, was used on Johnny. Mary screamed. We both were scared. Mary was shot because she said that she was going to tell the police. Jack, the other man present, father says not to tell anyone because we both would be hanged. If you will promise me by writing a statement in one of the papers in Nashville, Tennessee, that we will not be hanged or sent to prison for life, we both will come back to Baltimore. Are leaving Balto for Christmas. You will find the pistol in the river under the bridge in Annapolis. Pray for us, not the Negro. Signed with one word, Tennesseans."
Okay, first of all, I didn't realize that Edwards was a person of color. If you really think about everything you just said,
and that's why I didn't want to say it in the beginning. I wanted to just say everything the way that it was, and then I was waiting for the letter to kind of drop that bomb, because people listening are going to make your own opinions, and it shouldn't warp your opinion on it. But thinking back in this time frame, back in the 1940s, like, color was a big problem.
It still is.
It is.
It still is. People are still getting charged with crimes they didn't do because of racist stereotypes.
You're not wrong.
So I think it was smart that you did that, because as soon as you frame it like that, it's like, okay, so these guys are claiming it was an Italian weapon. So how did you match the ballistics in this other one that convicted Edwards? I have a lot more questions now. And
that's where the public started having their conspiracies with it too. Like, after this letter dropped, and they're like, well, you found these casings 6 days after, the crime scene was discovered. Like, how come you didn't find them the day they were discovered? And, there was definitely some conspiracies, and it started, putting some doubt in some heads.
And now, would you say that Maryland leans more Southern in values?
Yes. I would say 100%.
Especially back then?
Yeah, especially back then. And I also want to point out, before I get back into the story, I thought it was weird, too, that the letter came from somebody in Nashville, Tennessee, especially because that's one of the other places that me and you have visited together. When we moved back to Colorado, we stayed in Nashville for 2 days.
Yeah.
So I thought, that tie into it was kind of weird, and I didn't know that until I was reading.
Yeah. That is bizarre, because those little... there's so many cities we could have stopped in, but we stayed in Nashville, so... Yeah.
Yeah. But after that letter came in... Where was I? Hold up.
Shuffles through 6 pages of notes.
I know.
That's awesome, though. Because I don't want to hear shit about Google AI answers. I like that this is, from a book. You wrote it down. You dug.
Oh, yeah, dude. I did my homework. But with the case closed and the killer convicted, even after the letter came in, the police refused to follow up on that new piece of evidence. They were like, no, we got our guy, our conviction's there,
Sirs, You do not have your guy. At least now, that provides reasonable doubt. Because this person's asking for immunity in exchange for solving something. That's, like, insane to me. That, I mean, it's not super insane if you're racist and you don't want to like, if the human life that was wrongly convicted isn't worth it to you, then you're gonna do minimal things or nothing at all to make a wrong thing right, and to not even, like, maybe re-examine the ballistics is insane.
I agree with that, but also to play devil's advocate, and I'm not saying this is an excuse, whatever, like, all evidence should always be, looked at, whether it's old or new. But the police at the time were getting so much pressure from the community and so many others to get this guy and find it and put, like, an end to the fear because it was scaring the community so bad. So, like, like I said, it's not an excuse, but, like, coming from their perspective, it was more like, all right, we got this evidence, it lines up this way, we got it, we're good, and then you get this new piece and you're like, no, like, we got it, we're good, they're nervous in a way. And I'm not, like I said, not an excuse, but that's how I view them approaching it.
Yes, and I'm sure you're right. But also at the same time, nobody's fucking safer if the wrong person is behind bars, and it's going to be even more 100%. Embarrassing if it's a serial killer situation, which obviously I'm not saying this was. Right, exactly, and it absolutely has. I was just listening to Morbid. They just did a 4-part series on Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, and that motherfucker could have been caught so many times. That was insane. So that's a perfect example of it. So, but the other thing was, hanging has never been officially outlawed in the United States. I had to double check it. And this is according to Death Penalty Information Center, and it's deathpenaltyinfo.org. And it talks about hanging, and there are some states that it's still legal, though most of the time if you're going to be killed, it's lethal injection at this point, but it's technically not outlawed.
Interesting. Fun fact.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, so due to, them not reopening or, like, looking into the new evidence and everything, it allowed Edwards to be able to try to appeal again and actually get a little bit further with it this time. So he appealed in February 1950. So Edwards' original confession was thrown out, as well as the recorded conversation with the informant that got him, initially the search warrant of the house to find the gun anyway. So, as a result of all of this getting overturned, the hanging verdict was overturned as well. However...
Good?
Yeah, so... however, eventually, like, slightly more than 2 years following the murders, Edward was convicted on December 12th, 1950, and just sentenced to death.
Wait, even after the letter?
Even after the letter. Like, they didn't push it any further, they just were able to change his sentence. Like, they still thought, like, they had, conviction beyond no reason of doubt or whatever that is. But they were able to lessen it from, straight just like, we're gonna hang him, to you'll just get sentenced to death.
Well, at least it extended the time. I don't know. Also, does he stay in jail? I need to know. Don't actually tell me if there's more to it. Don't jump to the end, but I just want him to not be in jail if he's innocent.
All that I have left that I could find on this information, because I tried to look it up too. Like, I tried to look if he was still alive, because, he was 23 back then, so he could still be alive. That was back in 1950 range. He was in his early 20s. So, but I couldn't find any information. It was really annoying. But the book said, this last little blip that they tell us about what happened was in March of 1952, Maryland's new governor at the time, which was Theodore McLean, or Meckledin, Mckeldin. Meckledin.
Oh yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But either way, Theodore, this dude, he spared Edward's life, commuting his death sentence to just straight life imprisonment. Like, he couldn't take the sentence away, but he switched it up from, like, you're gonna be sentenced to death to where you're gonna be here your whole life.
That tells you that they didn't think he did it.
Yeah. Well,
so
the governor said he made this decision based on the controversy surrounding the case. because the
my
verdict
God.
relied on circumstantial evidence and because of the repeated charges that the police had failed to follow up on new evidence. So that's why he switched the verdict to that.
Because that's probably all he could do, maybe?
Yeah.
But, like, reopen
I mean, you're the governor,
case.
so...
Reopen the case. Get that evidence. Follow up on that letter. Check the ballistics. Like, you can't just be like, meh, an innocent guy is in jail for something he didn't do? Like, how did
possibly,
I'm so confused.
Possibly, but also,
okay,
like,
fine.
his conviction, like, his confession that they have, all the recordings and things like that, were pretty spot on to, like, what happened. And, like, not all that evidence was put in the news. They still kept things out of the news and, like, what people knew for, like, knowledge base and things.
Then
so
what is that letter?
I know, the letter is what got me twisted, too. But that's all I have.
Did the letter, though, give information that wasn't publicly available?
I mean, all it did, I think, was give it, reasonable doubt, because it gave, like, a whole nother story, because it didn't name who the people were directly. That it just said that girl and this guy were on a date with my bud. There was no specifications. So, like...
But did their account match the evidence?
They didn't review the evidence. They didn't look into that letter. They just received that letter, and it just happened... They didn't look into it, so who knows? At the time, they probably could have, but they didn't take the initiative to do so.
If anything, because if he was 23 and 50, so he was born in the 30s, he's like in his late 80s, early 90s right now, I think. If he was born in the 30s.
Yeah, sounds about right, because my great-grandmother just passed. She was born in 1930, and she was about to turn 91 this month.
So... maybe late 80s, early 90s, so he could still potentially be alive. And if he was guilty, great. Life in prison is arguably worse than death sometimes. But if he was innocent, damn. To spend your whole life in jail for something you didn't do. But like you said, his confessions match the evidence. It wouldn't sit right with me as a member of law enforcement or criminal investigations if that letter came in and we didn't as a team investigate and compare this letter with the evidence.
They talked to their friends, they talked to the girlfriends, they talked to the dudes, like they went through Mary's diary, like they saw all the dates that she had, and they talked to all those people, and they talked, like they did do their legwork when it came to investigating every lead and talking to like every possibility and things to that nature. Like, I will give the police credit on that end. But to do all that and then to get lazy at the end just because, like, oh, we did it, it's done, like, no. Because if that was you and you were in that situation, and, say there just happened to be a coincidence or somebody, you're of color, so they might be framing you. The way they found the bullets and, like, the gun was happened to be at your house because you talked about having this foreign gun, like, they could have very possibly staged it. And just to screw you because you're a man of color and an easy target, and they can just make that motive very easy. Like, imagine if you were that person. Like, you would want, if some form of evidence came in at any point, you would want somebody to look into it, even if it meant the possibility of getting you out of that fucking hell. And that's just how I feel about it, like, thinking about it, like, from the shoe on the other foot perspective.
Yeah. When you initially brought up the gun was behind a fruit basket, I was like, that's a weird place to put it. That seems pretty obvious. And so the problem I have is there are cracks, but you can be found innocent after you're dead so that your name is at least cleared. So if nothing else, if we could at least bring awareness to this. And if he's guilty, great. Fuck him. He's a piece of shit. But if he's not... it's hard.
Honestly, I feel like I have heard this, like, story covered on other, like, podcasts or documentaries or something before, because like the name Mary Kline like rings such a bell in my head and has.
Yes.
So like, same. I feel like other people have covered it, but I feel like they didn't get the same details that I got out of the book that I read. So like, shout out to that author in that book, and they'll be in the show notes and things of that nature, because that was only one story out of that book. There are so many other chapters that I'm really excited to kind of like dive into and just kind of see like what the true crime is. Because I mean, like, I love horror movies. I love any like fictional, like scary monster or non-fictional, whatever one means, fake.
Yeah. Yeah, so I thought I was ready to speak, but I was able to just find, I've been secretly looking things up over here, as I do, and apparently he, on February 8th, 1950, he appealed his sentence. Oh no, this is just, no, never mind. But that's what it's just like a brief little snippet. Yeah. I was trying to see if it had any updates, but
Yeah, like, is it as hard for you to find information on him as it was for me? Because, like, even searching Mary Kline was hard for me to find, like, any articles.
the only thing I'm finding is so if you caselaw.vlex.com, it's a portal that just has, like, different case, like, public information that it compiles. But, yeah, all this really says here is the appellant Thomas Alexander Edwards was indicted on 2 separate indictments for the murders of John L. Mahlan, I think it's Mahlan, now that I see it, and Mary Kline on September 17th, 1948. These are all things you told us. So this is just bare basic information. But this says here, it is contended that the detention of the appellant in custody without a warrant and without ever having been taken before a magistrate was illegal and constituted a denial of due process under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Federal Constitution. He cites as authority, among other cases, these examples there, different actual cases. Edwards was first taken into custody on October 9th when he was brought by the Anne Arundel. Is that how you say that? Anne Arundel?
Anne Arundel.
Anne Arundel. See? Oh my... Anne Arundel.
It sounded like a Game of Thrones character.
Anne Arundel. Holy cow, it doesn't look like that's what that would be. I'm gonna put that...
Anne Arundel.
Whoa, I'm so glad that you know. Anne Arundel County Police to their headquarters. No charge was placed against him at that time. He was put in a cell where he spent the night. So, on October 10th, he was again questioned and taken to his home, where everything you said, basically. I'm just trying to see if there was anything where it says... Oh, this is... Whoa. Upon arrival, he was served with warrants. So basically it goes on to just describe in detail the questioning, but like nothing, just he's going back and forth. He's being taken back and forth, but it doesn't go into what they found. We are of opinion that the facts in this case do not show such unlawful treatment to constitute a denial of due process under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. So he appealed that he was denied due process, and the state was like, no, you weren't, and they kept him in jail. That's what I'm getting out of this. And that's basically what you said. That's documented proof. Yeah. Oh my gosh, wait, there is more. Wait. I'm gonna read this paragraph.
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
Because I don't know when this is from, if this is like court records. This is just written in the case information. Appellant claims that while at Waterloo Station he was told he was not at Ferndale now. This apparently is not specifically contradicted. The appellant also claims that while he was at the Waterloo Station, one of the officers had a rope from a string of lights. He kept on rolling like a slip knot to go on your neck, and I am watching him all the time. That's quote. This fact is not specifically denied, meaning that nobody denied that they were taunting him with a noose, basically. Holy shit. The appellant also testified that while he was at Waterloo, the officers told him the reason they brought him up there was for his own protection, to keep the people, quote, from Glen Burnie from lynching you. This statement is absolutely denied by the officers. Appellant also contends that while he was being questioned by Captain Chris in Baltimore and before he made his alleged confession, that Captain Chris said to him, quote, if you don't say nothing, we will send you back to Ferndale derogatory term. Then he said, "I don't want any parts of Ferndale." He further stated that Captain Chris said, quote, "If you tell me what I want to know, I will see you don't go to Ferndale." End quote. Captain Chris denied that he ever made such a statement or threatened to send him back to Ferndale, or promised to keep him in Baltimore City. Captain Chris does admit that the appellant said he didn't want any Waterloo police or any Ferndale police. Where an attempt is made to offer a confession and evidence, and the accused says that the confession made by him was not obtained voluntarily, but because of some threats or persuasions, it is then the duty of the trial court to determine whether the testimony of the accused or the testimony of the officers who were testified against, that no such threats or persuasions were made. It is to be given the greater weight. This determination depends upon whether the state has met the burden of proof. We agree that the trial court, in view of the denials by the officers, was justified in holding that the confession was not obtained because of threats made by the officers that the appellant would be returned to Ferndale and possibly lynched. So the state said they didn't say that, they didn't do that. During the time Captain Chris was questioning the appellant between the hours of 11:30 a.m. and 1:25 p.m. on November 11th, Captain Chris told the appellant, among other things, just before the alleged confession was made, quote, "I was equally concerned as the people who were aroused, and if he had any knowledge, I would like to hear from him. He said his father told him that morning to tell the truth. I said, well, why don't you tell the truth? At about that time, the sandwiches came in for his lunch, and he ate the 2 large sandwiches, and he had a bottle of Coca-Cola. There was a 3rd sandwich there, and he didn't care for it. I spoke to him again about his mother. Did your mother talk with you recently? He said, yes. She was at Waterloo yesterday. What does she say? She told me to tell the truth. Why don't you tell this story? I'm going to tell the whole story. Basically, this is what the cop is saying their conversation was. I said to him, if you tell a story, I only want the whole story. I don't want half. I want it either all or none. End quote. Appellant then asked Captain Chris to call his father on the phone. This was done, and appellant was taken to his cell. Those are the 2 different accounts. So you have one, it's a he said, she said situation.
But it's fucking juicy, isn't it?
That makes me feel like there's a lot more to it, because it's very interesting that, from one hand, he looks really guilty. Mm-hmm. And on the other hand, he looks really innocent. So I'd love to see if any other information is out there with more deep diving. So we might be able to follow up with more information, but I think it's what you gave us from the book, that was more than what, I've seen so far. Just
and
based
that's kind
off
of where
of
I
this,
was at when I was looking. It was just, it was so detailed and so well written that it was I could visualize everything, I felt everything, and this isn't, like I said, it's not one of the more grotesque, serial times with Sam that I've done, and I'm not saying all our stories have to be. This is darker in its own way. Yep, that's Mary.
Yeah. We'll post pictures of them.
And that newspaper article I sent you is a picture of Edwards and his family.
Okay. This is her graduation picture.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all on the same... this is on... I have Ancestry, so I can look up pictures.
But if you go to our messages and you look at that newspaper article, it should be, the main big picture in the center.
Oh, now it loads. Earlier it didn't. This is a cool-looking newspaper. Oh. Aww. Wait, that's... Oh.
Which one
is he?
Edwards. He should be the one, I think, all the way to the left in the picture. I think that's what it says.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's him and his family.
They just put their family on the page, front page like that?
Mm-hmm.
Dang. Yeah.
So what's your final thoughts, man?
My final thoughts are, if Edwards murdered Mary and John, then he got what he deserved. And I'm glad that I presumably spent the rest of his life in jail. And I'm glad that it was converted to a life sentence, just to be sure. Because Personally, I'm not sure. I don't know if he's innocent. I don't know if he's guilty. I do know that racism historically has charged innocent men with crimes they did not commit to make police stations look better and to, quote-unquote, calm the public. So, I don't know if he... I feel like it's more... I want to know more about that letter. And rest in peace, Mary Kline and John Mahler.
Mahlan.
Let me say his Mahlan. I knew it was wrong. Rest in peace, Mary Kline.
John and Mary.
John and Mary. Yep. So,
thank you. Like I said, reading the title initially, Lover's Lane, like, I had one thought in my head of how this was going to go down. I'm sure everybody else did too. And to see that something so simple as road rage, possibly, because, you know, if he is innocent, then who knows what the motive was. But if he's not innocent and what the claims are, and it was just road rage that ended two innocent young lives, I think it's a lesson for everybody that's listening, you know, take a step back, and even when you've reached your limit and your boiling point and you're blowing the fuck up, which everyone's allowed to, by all means, let that out, but don't let that allow you to make a rash decision that's going to not only ruin your life, but change the life of others.
But let's think about this. The claim was that Edwards got mad at John for
cutting him off.
Like, cutting him off.
Yeah, because John passed him and cut him off and almost, like, got him off the road.
Edwards is a gentleman of color in Maryland in the 1940s. Do you think that he would want to start something? Well, I guess that's why he would have killed them. Okay, I've answered my own question.
You know, and who knows? Like, just because you're a person of color, like, anybody can snap. Anything can happen. And, you know, if you just happen to snap and you have the means right there, like, that's why, like, I don't agree that firearms should be as easily accessible as they are. I do agree with them for certain things when it comes to, you know, like, safety of your house and, like, when they're done and used for proper things, but not to have just to have or to play with, or, you know, to have in situations like Edwards and John and Mary's situation. You know, if he didn't have a gun accessible right then and there, he might have found another way to hurt them, but it wouldn't have been as easy, and they may have been able to survive. You know, there's so many ifs and things of that nature. But regardless, I want the moral of the story to be that, you know, think about others, think about how your actions have consequences and how it can affect others, and think about how that moment that you were freaking out, that blow up, that big end all be all, your world is crashing, like, think about your decisions and your actions, because the consequences might be way worse than that little moment of inconvenience.
Yep. Yeah.
And also, never stop asking yourself, who are you? Oh wow. Who are you?